Good morning, dear Sangha. Today is the 21st of December in the year 2008, and we are in the Dharma Nectar Temple, Lower Hamlet, during our winter retreat. This is the first Dharma talk in English since the beginning of the retreat 33 days ago. And we have been learning about the 5 mindfulness trainings. The theme of the retreat is Buddhist contribution to a global ethic. Presented as the path of the Buddha. We try to present the 5 mindfulness trainings in such a way that everyone feel that that should be the path we undertake to bring about peace and well-being to ourselves and to the world. Those of us who have received and practiced the 5 mindfulness trainings, we know that this is a path of love. We should practice the 5 trainings in such a way that love can grow every day in us, in our family, in our community, and in the world. Sheila. Has been translated into English as morality by some people. Morality, ethics. And in Plum Village, we translate as mindfulness trainings. Mindfulness training. So the 5 mindfulness trainings is a part of training, so that love can be there in us and around us. In Buddhism, we speak of the three trainings, Sila, Samadhi, and Prajna. Samadhi is concentration. And prajna is wisdom, insight. This is the backbone of the Buddhist teaching, the Buddhist practice, the Buddhist training, Sila, Samadhi, Prajna. But sometimes the three trainings is described as smrti. Mindfulness. Smrti, Samadhi, and Prajna. Because mindfulness leads to concentration, and concentration leads to insight. But Sila also leads to Samadhi, and Prajna. And that is why we can say that mindfulness training and mindfulness precepts and mindfulness are the same. The practice of Sila, the precepts, is the same with the practice of mindfulness, smrti. And that is why we have presented the 5 trainings in such a way that people can see it is the practice of mindfulness. The first training, aware of the suffering caused by the destruction of life. I undertake not to kill. I undertake to protect the life of people, animals, plants, and minerals. So that is mindfulness. Mindfulness is the capacity of being aware. We are aware that there's a lot of suffering being caused by the destruction of life. So because of that mindfulness, we undertake the kind of practice that aim at preventing the killing and help us to protect life in its all forms. So it is easy to understand that Sila is smrti, precepts is mindfulness. So whether we say Sila, Samadhi, Prajna, or smrti, Samadhi, and Prajna is the same. Precepts, concentration, insight, or mindfulness, concentration, and insight is the same. But we have learned also that the energy of mindfulness, when it is generated, the energy of mindfulness contains within itself, carries within itself the energy of concentration, samadhi. And the energy of concentration contains within herself the energy of insight. This is M. This is C, concentration, and this is insight. Mindfulness, concentration, insight. And if it is true mindfulness, it should carry with it concentration and insight. And this is not something difficult to see. Suppose we are mindful of the rose. We look at the rose and we say, I'm aware, I'm mindful that the rose is there. So to be aware, to be mindful of the rose means to recognize that the rose is there. And when you are mindful of the rose, you are somehow concentrated on the rose. You are not concentrated on other things. So focus your attention on the rose is mindfulness. And at the same time, you are somehow concentrated on the rose. So it is easy to see that the energy of mindfulness carries with herself the energy of concentration. When you are very mindful of something, you are somehow concentrated on that thing. And when you are concentrated on something, you really get in touch with it. You really see it. I know this is a rose. I'm aware of the rose. I focus my attention on the rose, and I know that this is a rose. And this is already inside. Because you know that a rose is a rose. A rose is there. It's already inside. It is already enlightenment. Enlightenment is not something very far away. Understanding is our business every day. When you drink your tea, and if you drink in mindfulness, you are concentrated on the tea. And if you are drinking tea, and if you know that you are drinking tea, that is already enlightenment. Mindfulness is enlightenment. Because there are those around us who drink tea, but who do not know that they are drinking tea. They are breathing, but they don't know that they are breathing. They are walking, but they do not know that they are walking. They are there, but they do not know that they are there. They are alive, that they do not know that they are alive. So mindfulness allows us to be aware that we are breathing, we are walking, we are alive, that the rose is there. So that is already enlightenment. If there is mindfulness, there is concentration, and there is enlightenment. And you can live your enlightened life every moment with mindfulness. Because mindfulness carries concentration and enlightenment. That is why I said enlightenment is our business, daily business, and not something far away, something you hope to have in the future. So when you walk like this mindfully with every step, the energy of mindfulness, concentration, and enlightenment inside are already there. So to say that mindfulness brings about concentration, it is a way of saying, because mindfulness is also concentration. And when you say concentration, you say insight, you say enlightenment. So it is possible for us to live every moment of our daily life in mindfulness, concentration, and enlightenment. Mindfulness helps concentration to be more solid. And concentration makes insight to be more solid. And concentration makes mindfulness more solid. Insight makes mindfulness more solid. So the three of them support each other. And you can see the nature of interbeing in the three. We say mindfulness, concentration, and insight. It sounds like the three different separate things. But that is because we don't know that they one carries the other two within itself. So wherever there is mindfulness, there is some concentration and insight. And if concentration and insight are strong, and mindfulness is very strong. And if mindfulness is very strong, concentration and insight are also very strong. So that is the interbeing, the nature of interbeing of the three trainings: mindfulness, concentration, and insight. And that is why we want that when we recite the first mindfulness training, people see that it is not just a mindfulness training, but people see concentration and insight in it. So our practice, our work during this 3-month retreat in winter is to present the first mindfulness training in such a way that help people to see the concentration, the insight that are on the foundation of the training. The first Dhamma talk offered by the Buddha to his first 5 disciples. The first Dhamma talk is about the 4 Noble Truths and Noble Eightfold Path. The Noble Eightfold Path is the foundation for Buddhist ethics and morality. Because in the teaching of the Eight Noble Paths, the Buddha elaborates about right view. Right view means insight. It is enlightenment, right view. Right view will lead to right thinking. If you don't have wisdom, if you don't have insight, if you don't have enlightenment, and then you cannot think correctly. And if you don't think correctly, you cannot do correctly, you cannot speak correctly. And when we speak of morality, when we speak of ethics, we usually talk about right action and right speech. We don't talk enough about right thinking, because right thinking is the foundation of right action. And morality, ethics is not just about physical action, words, but also to think. Learning how to think right, to think in a good direction, that is already morality. And the thinking can destroy the world. The wrong thinking can destroy the world. The wrong thinking can cause a lot of suffering. That is why right thinking is a very important foundation of Buddhist ethics. Morality and ethics is about how to have it right, how to have our action and our speech right. And right views, the first element of the Eight Noble Path, is exactly prajna, is wisdom. And wisdom can be cultivated by concentration, and concentration can be cultivated by mindfulness. So mindfulness, concentration, and insight have the purpose of cultivating right view, wisdom. And that is why when we recite the first mindfulness training, we should see the wisdom in it. We should see the concentration on it. Why people kill? Why people destroy life? Why people do not care about protecting life? Because something is wrong in their thinking. And if there is something wrong in their thinking, it means that there is misunderstanding. There's a lack of insight, a lack of a right view. So wrong view is at the foundation of killing, of violence, of terrorism. Wrong view. Tà kiến. Wrong view bring about fear. About discrimination. Bring about anger, despair. And fear, discrimination, anger, despair, and greed, craving. Because you have wrong views, that is why you think that happiness is only possible if you have a lot of money, a lot of power, a lot of fame, and so on. You are greedy in terms of wealth, power, fame. So everything that leads to violence, to war, comes from fear, from discrimination, from anger, from despair, from greed, and all these things come from wrong views. And that is why ethics, morality should be based on right view, so on insight. And the practice of mindfulness, samadhi, are to develop insight in us. And right view in Buddhism is the view of non-discrimination, a view of non-duality, a kind of view that cannot be the object of your attachment. Concerning prajna, we can speak of emptiness. Emptiness is a teaching trying to describe right view. It is not a philosophy, but it is a method of practice, a kind of concentration that help us getting the right view. Concentration is not philosophy either. Concentration is like an instrument. In order to dig the soil, to dig the earth in order to make a well, to have fresh water, you need an instrument. In order to grow vegetable, you need a hoe, you need instruments. So mindfulness and concentration are instruments. And with the intelligent use of mindfulness and concentration, you can dig the ground of your mind. And you get the insight, you get the enlightenment. So it is good to say that emptiness interbeing, impermanence, non-self, dependent, interdependence, interdependent origination. All these things can be described as instruments. Samadhi. If you focus your attention on these concentration, and if your concentration become powerful, and then you can make a breakthrough, and you can get the insight. So all these are not philosophies, are not notions. They are instruments. They are object of your concentration. So when we say impermanence, impermanence should be an instrument and not just an idea. Suppose you look at your beloved one. You are angry at her. You are angry at her. You are about to say something that makes her suffer. Suddenly you remember impermanence. Life is changing. I'm going to die. She's going to die also. Maybe in 40 years, 50 years. she will not be there. I will not be there. So it's stupid to spend time getting angry at each other. And suddenly you will got the insight of impermanence. And your anger evaporates. You don't want to say something mean to her anymore. You want to hold her in your arms. So the insight of impermanence is not a notion. It is an insight, an instrument. So in Plum Village, we propose that when you get angry at the person you love, close your eyes and imagine, visualize you and your beloved one 100 years from now. What will become of you, of him, of her? And the insight of impermanence will come, and it will remove your anger. And you see that it's so wonderful that you are still alive, and the other person is still alive with you. You should cherish his presence. It's stupid to allow anger to occupy you. So, impermanence is not a notion that we entertain, we talk about, but that is a kind of concentration, that is kind of practice. No self is the same. When the father is angry at his son, or the son is angry at the father, and say that I don't wish to see him anymore, he can go, he can disappear. So non-self means that my son, he is me. I don't have a separate self. My father, he is me. In every cell of my body, my father is there, fully present. I carry my father into the future. I may have some difficulty with my father, but my father is in me. I am the continuation of my father, and I have to sort it out. I have to understand my father, and I have to ask to help my father to understand me. And you don't see you and your father as two separate entities. You are the continuation of your father. You are your father. There is no escape. And that is non-self. And with enough skill, you can get the insight of no-self, a non-self. And when the insight of no-self is there, discrimination is no longer there. And your anger disappears also. So it is the wisdom, it is the insight, it is the enlightenment that remove suffering, remove discrimination. And that is why when you don't have that wisdom, you are victims of fear, discrimination, anger, despair, and greed. When you have the insight of interdependence, emptiness, interbeing, impermanence, and non-self, all these blocks of suffering disappear. And the suffering is no longer there. And your thinking will be right thinking, your action will be right action. So that is why in Buddhist ethics, in Buddhist morality, wisdom, right view is at the foundation. And we can cultivate wisdom, we can cultivate insight individually and with the Sangha. So the 5 mindfulness trainings should be an instrument helping us cultivating love and insight. And we know very well that love is not possible without insight. Understanding and love are the same thing. If you don't understand, how can you love? Understanding is the other word for love. When you understand, anger, discrimination, fear disappear, and that makes love possible. So although we have two words, understanding and love, but they are really the same. You cannot love someone unless you understand him or her, understanding the suffering, the difficulties. You cannot love yourself unless you understand yourself, especially you understand your suffering, your difficulties. And to love oneself is very important. If you cannot accept and love yourself, you cannot accept and love another person. So mindfulness, concentration and insight are for that. We work on ourselves, we work on others. We cultivate understanding and love. So when you have right view, you don't think in terms of discrimination, in terms of fear, of anger, of despair, of greed anymore. So right thinking is thinking in the direction of non-fear, of non-discrimination, of compassion, of hope. And when you are able to produce a thought in the line of right thinking, that thought will be characterized by understanding, compassion, hope, protection, love. And when you produce a thought like that, you feel wonderful within yourself. And the right thinking you are practicing begin to heal yourself and begin to heal the world. That is already action, thinking. Right thinking make the world bright, beautiful, healthy. You have not said anything, you have not done anything. Just think in the direction of right thinking, and you begin to heal yourself and to heal the world. And that is why the first Dhamma talk by the Buddha is very important. It's the ground for Buddhist ethics, Buddhist morality. With right view, you can speak, you can practice right speech. With right view, there is no longer discrimination and fear and greed. That is why right speech is the kind of speech that goes in the direction of understanding, compassion, support, forgiveness. And when you are able to say something like that, you feel wonderful. When you are able to write a letter with right speech, you feel wonderful. It has the capacity of reconciling, healing. And with right view, you can practice right action. Right action. Right action is the kind of action that has the power to protect, to save, to help, to support. And all of that will not be possible with right view. Right view. And with right view, you will practice right livelihood. And you have a job, you have the kind of work that will not be harmful to other living beings and to nature. You can protect the environment. You can follow the path of sustainable development, and that is possible only with right view. Right view is that you are not only this, you are also your environment. In the Buddhist teaching, it's very clear that our thinking, our speech, our action will bring about our future. And our future is us and the environment. We are not only this, but we are that, because our environment is a co-production of us. So we co-produce this, and we co-produce that. So environment is not something else. You are your environment. You are the world. So that is right. That is right view. Right view is that you contain the environment, and the environment contains you. These two are not two separate entities, and that is interbeing. You interact with your environment. The environment is in you, and you are in the environment. And that is the Buddhist insight of interbeing. So there are many words, many notions, many teachings, but they are the same. That is the non-dualistic way of understanding the world, of seeing the world. Without that right view, it's not possible for you to practice right thinking, right speech, right action, livelihood. Delusions. Right. Mindfulness. Right concentration. I already have mindfulness here. We already have concentration here. We have right view here. So the rest is just 5. Cultivating mindfulness, concentration, and insight bring about right thinking, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right delusions that will make the world a better place for everyone to live. And the, the 5 trainings should represent right thinking, reflect right thinking, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right religions, and based on mindfulness, concentration, and insight. That is why it's very important that we rewrite the 5 trainings in such a way that when people read, they see that this way of life, this way of living, is the way of peace, the way of love, based on insight. And that is why when you rewrite the 5 mindfulness trainings, you have to bring the teaching of the Eightfold Noble Path into it. You see mindfulness in it. You see concentration in it. You see insight in it. And you see right thinking, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right religions in it. Those of us who have learned, we have studied the history of Buddhism, we know that there are so many practitioners of Buddhism have tried, have practiced, have worked hard in order to develop and to continue the work initiated by the Buddha. The Buddha had about 45 years of teaching, and 45 years of teaching is not a lot of time, no. So he did not have enough time in order to elaborate his teaching. The five precepts, the 5 mindfulness trainings, on even the Pratimoksha, are to be revised, are to be improved. And that is why his disciples, during the 2,500 years of Buddhist history, have tried to do that work. Mahayana Buddhism is an attempt, a very successful attempt to renew the teaching of the Buddha, to make it more available to the modern times. And there have been sutras, Mahayana sutras, that came to existence later, trying to help bring more teaching of the Buddha into the 5 mindfulness trainings. There is a sutra called Ưu Bà Tắc Giới Kinh. Ưu Bà Tắc Giới Kinh. Upasaka Shila Sutra. Upasaka Shila Sutra. It is a Mahayana sutra that tries to present the 5 mindfulness trainings in such a way that they can incorporate more the Buddhist teaching on ethics and morality. There is the Bodhisattva precepts. The Bodhisattva precepts came after the passing away of the Buddha. And the Buddha the Bodhisattva precepts include the 10 basic precepts, strong precept, main precept, and 48 minor precept. Mahayana, that is a Mahayana work. This is another attempt in order to update the teaching of the Buddha on ethics, on morality. And the 14 mindfulness trainings of the order of the Interbeing is also another attempt to renovate, to bring more teaching of the Buddha into the precepts. So there are many sutras, many shastras that have been written during the course of Buddhist history in order to help renovate, improve the teaching and the practice laid down by the Buddha during his 45 years of teaching. And today, this year, we have this 3 months retreat, winter retreat. Well, we try to do the same kind of thing. We try to rewrite the 5 mindfulness trainings so that the 5 mindfulness trainings can incorporate the basic teaching of the Buddha into the practice, because we want to offer the 5 mindfulness trainings to the world. And the 5 trainings should respond to the suffering of our time, on problems like global warming, terrorism, war, discrimination, and so on. It's hard work. We have to practice deeply. We have to bring together our insight in order to be able to do so. The 5 mindfulness trainings that we have been using, practicing, was the fruit of our work 25 years ago. And at that time, we believe that it's very updated. But now, 25 years later, we see that we need to rewrite it. We need to bring more Buddhist teachings on ethics, on morality, in order to make the 5 trainings more complete, more relevant, so that the 5 trainings can respond to the real suffering of our time. We have to address issues like global warming, the destruction of the ecosystem. We have to address the issue like terrorism, war, discrimination, globalization, and so on. And We have already spent more than a month working together, sitting meditation, walking meditation, Dharma discussion, and so on. And we hope that by the end of the 3-month retreat, we can come up with a draft of the 5 trainings and of the 14 trainings. And that will be presented to the 21-day retreat in June. Next year. Because next year we will have a 21-day retreat beginning from June the 1st to June the 21st. And we hope that by that time you have the text available. And this is a collective insight of the Sangha, helping the Buddha to make the 5 trainings and the 14 trainings more relevant to our time. And that is what the Buddha wanted. He wants his disciple to be intelligent, to be renovative, always trying to make the Dharma relevant to our time. And we need a lot of courage and skill in order to help the Buddha. In the last 2 weeks, we have begun to rewrite the first and the second mindfulness trainings. We know that that the violence that we witness in the world today, war, terrorism, has come from our thinking that is not right. Our thinking is characterized by, very much characterized by discrimination and fear and anger. And our thinking is very much characterized by attachment to views. When you believe something to be the absolute truth, when you believe that you detain the truth and the other people, they don't have it, when you believe that you are doing the work for God, you are on the side of God, and the other people, they are the enemy of God. When you entertain the idea that only your view is right and other views are wrong, and you tend to become dogmatic, and your thinking is full of discrimination. There is no tolerance in your thinking. And that kind of thinking has led to war and terrorism and despair. And that is why the practice of non-attachment to view is a very important element of the Buddhist teaching that can help the world. You should not be fanatical. You should be tolerant. You should not be attached to a view. And if you can practice non-attachment to view, you are no longer fanatical. You no longer discriminate. And you remove the deepest root of war and violence. And that is one of the major contributions of Buddhism to the world. The attitude of non-attachment to views. You cannot kill in the name of God. You cannot kill in the name of truth. You cannot kill in the name of your ideology, of your religion. You cannot kill because of a view that you have. You should not impose your view on other people, forcing them to follow you. And this is very important. So if the first precept, not to kill, does not carry this insight, well, it is not sufficient. So when we recite the first mindfulness training about protecting life, not killing, we have to touch the insight. We have to see that the practice of non-attachment to view is very important for this precept to be practiced, to be kept. If you continue to hold your view in a fanatical way, if you continue to think that only you have the right view and others have only wrong views, and then the killing, the intolerance will continue. And then the other aspect of right view is the non-dualistic thinking. Suppose we talk about man and his environment. And he may have a non-dualistic way of looking that can make us feel much better and in peace with the environment. When you practice mindfulness concentration deeply, you find out that you come from the environment. You come from the environment. Everything that are in your 5 skandhas come from the environment. Water, air, heat, fire. And we have come from the minerals. We have come from the vegetables. We have come from the minerals. And we carry the environment in us. And suddenly you have the insight, I am the environment. If I do harm to the environment, I do harm to myself. That is the non-dualistic thinking. And if you have that insight, you no longer exploit the environment in such a way that they will bring despair and destruction to the environment and to yourself. And if you go back to the example of father and son, looking deeply, you see that the son is the continuation of the father. And looking into the son, you see the father. Looking into the father, you see the son. And then you see that the happiness of the son is the happiness of the father, and so on. That is the non-dualistic way of thinking. Right thinking should be like that, non-dualistic. And when you are used to the non-dualistic way of thinking, discrimination is no longer there. And the fighting between ideologies and religions and notion of truth is no longer there. You are him, he is you. On my left there is a bamboo thicket. And if you look deeply, you see that down below there's one block of roots. All the bamboo trunks, they share the same kind of roots. If you dig and you see a block of roots linked to each other, and the nutriment, they get together. Looking above, you can see only individual sticks of bamboo. But looking deeply, you see that they are just one. And when you come and cut one bamboo tree, you may see that that bamboo tree is dead because it's cut and taken away. It's no longer there. But the whole block of roots are there. And next April, one bamboo shoot will come up and replace the bamboo stick that has been removed. So you have a totally different view. And imagine that the different bamboo trunks are fighting each other in order to secure a place. Deeply, they are one. And even birth and death that happened on the surface do not affect them. When you look deeply, you can see a lot of things like that. So when people that belong to different kinds of religion, culture, society, they fight each other, they hate each other, they kill each other because they don't see that they have much in common. And the happiness of one group is very crucial for the happiness of the other group. And the suffering of one group will have a lot of relation with the suffering of the other group. So to learn to think globally, to think non-dualistically is very important. And that is one of the things that the Buddhist teaching and practice can offer to the world in terms of ethics. In the teaching of Buddha concerning the mind, we learn that this flower is the object of mind. And the object of mind belongs to mind. And a question might be asked, this rose, does it exist independently from my mind, outside of my mind, or it is in my mind? It's a very simple question. It is in my mind or outside of my mind. Although the question is simple, but it's very difficult to answer. From the very beginning, the teaching of the Buddha show us that there are six organs of perception: eyes, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind. And each have object. Form is the object of eyes. Sound is the object of ear. Perfume? Smell. Smell is the object of nose. Taste, object of tongue. And touch, object of body, and which is the object of mind. Mind is the sixth. And in Buddhism, we speak of Dharma. Dharma. Dharma with a capital D means the teaching of the Buddha. But Dharma with a small d means things, phenomena. Form is a phenomena, sound is a phenomenon, smell, taste, touch. So this rose is a Dharma. It's the object of mind. So in the beginning of the teaching, it is already said that dharmas are only objects of mind. Because a perception when you perceive something, like a flower, it looks like that there is a perceiver and the object of perception. In the case of a flower, it's the object of perception. The flower is here. And as our mind is concerned, this is the subject of perception. Subject and object. You cannot perceive unless there is an object. To perceive means to perceive something. And the perceiver and the perceived, they manifest at the same time. When you think, the subject of thinking and the object of thinking manifest at the same time. You cannot say that there is the mind that exists separately and the rose that exists separately, and then the mind come close to the rose and perceive the rose. It's not like that. Because if you speak of perception, you know that to perceive is always to perceive something. There cannot be perception without any object. If this is the first thing you learn in Buddhist psychology, it's very important. That object of perception and subject of perception, they interact. They help each other to manifest at the same time. It's like the left and the right. You cannot imagine that the left can exist separately. Wherever there is a left, the right is there. And you can say that the left embraces the right in it, and the right embraces the left in it. Usually we think that our mind is something in here, and the world is something out there. And there is a distinction between the two. The in here can be independent, and the out there can be independent. And the two might come together. That is the basic mistake. In Buddhism, that is called the double grasping. Double grasping. It means you got two wrong views. The first wrong view is that your mind is separate, and the second wrong view is the object of your mind is something separate. So that is part of the non-dualistic thinking. And modern science are trying to touch that. In quantum physics, the scientists begin to see that the quanta are your mind. There's a lot of your mind in it, and you are observing your own mind. And the other day we spoke about Winnie the Pooh. In a morning, he walked on the snow, and after having make around, he suddenly become aware that some animal had been there, and that animal must be maybe very dangerous. So he was following the footprints in order to look for the animal. And after having make another round, he saw that there are two animals. And he did not know that it's his own footprints. So the same thing is true with us. We are kind of, we need a pull. We think that the world is something other than us. And the fact is that we are the world and the object of our research, whether you are an astrophysician or a nuclear physicist, you begin to see that you are observing yourself, because the world is yourself. So this is very important in the Buddhist teaching at the base. In ethics, they distinguish between normative ethics, đạo đức học, quy phạm, tiêu chuẩn. Tiêu chuẩn đạo đức học. And the role of normative ethics is to find out what is the right thing to do and what is the wrong thing to avoid in terms of right action, right speech. And when we speak of right view, right thinking, right speech, right action, right livelihood, we are trying to find out what view, what thinking is right thinking that will bring only happiness and not suffering. What kind of speech can be described as right speech that will only bring happiness and reconciliation. And that all belong to normative ethics. But there is also a domain of ethics called meta-ethics. Là siêu đạo đức học. It deals with the question of what is right. What is the meaning of right and wrong? What is the meaning of right and wrong? What is the meaning of good and evil? What is the meaning of right and wrong? And when we speak about non-attachment to views and non-dualistic thinking, well, that kind of studies, that kind of meditation belong more to the realms of meta-ethics. What is the meaning of truth? What is the meaning of in the realm of meta-ethics, people ask questions. What do you mean by being true? What does it mean to be true? What does it mean to be false? What do it mean to be good? What does it mean to be evil? What does it mean to be right and wrong? So they go to the root. According to the Buddhist teaching, the deepest Buddhist teaching, the true, the false, the good and the evil, the right and wrong, they always interact. It's like the mud and the lotus. The mud is very different from the lotus. The lotus very beautiful, very clean, very fragrant, but the mud is not beautiful, is not clean, is not fragrant. And yet, without the mud, there's no lotus. So if you have the non-dualistic way of thinking, you can see the mud in the lotus. And the lotus already in the mud. That is interbeing. That is interdependence. That the non-dualistic view of thinking. Interbeing and non-dualism is the same. So the same is true with good and evil, right and wrong, according to this. The right and wrong, they interact. The right and wrong, they interact. They are not enemies, according to the deepest Buddhist teaching. These are they belong to the realm of relative truth. In Buddhism, we speak of the absolute truth, paramartha, and the relative truth. Suppose we speak of the notion of above and below. We are sitting here in France, and we feel that this is our above and this is our below. But our brothers and sisters in the Sangha in Vietnam now, they are sitting on the other side of the planet. And they don't agree that this is their above. They think that we are sitting upside down. And our above become their below. So the idea of above and below, they interact. To above is to be above of something. To be below means to be below of something. It's like the left and the right. The left cannot be without the right. The right cannot be without the left. So according to this teaching, evil and good, they make each other. The right and wrong make each other. The true and the false make each other. They belong to the realm of relative truth. As the absolute truth, that is the removal of all nine notions. The notion of birth and death, being and non-being. Good and evil. The extinction of all notions called nirvana. Nirvana is the extinction. It means extinction. But first of all, the extinction of all these notions. The absolute, the ultimate reality cannot be described as in terms of being and non-being. Good or evil, right or wrong. And this is why in Buddhism, when we speak of ethics and we speak about morality, we should distinguish that the Buddhist system of ethics are based also on the absolute insight. And this is why all these notions are of a relative importance. If you think of God, as the true, the good, the beautiful, if you think of God in terms of being, you are still in the realm of the relative truth. A theologian has said something like, God is the ground of being. Ground of being. But being has its counterpart, like non-being. It's like goodness and evil. If you speak of good, you have to speak of evil, because they make a pair. So the same thing is true with being and non-being. And if you speak of God as in terms of being, you are still in the realm of relative truth. As far as the ultimate reality is concerned, the term being cannot be a good description, because if God is the ground of being, who will be the ground of non-being? Outside of God, there is something else. If God is the right, and who will be the wrong? If God is the good, and who will be the evil? So we tend to identify God with the good side. And God cannot, I think there are mystics who have being able to overcome that kind of dualistic thinking. Because as far as the absolute is concerned, all these notions cannot be applied anymore. It is nirvana. It is suchness. You cannot describe suchness or nirvana in terms of being and non-being, good or evil, and so on. So this belongs to the realm of meta-ethics. And it is very clear that in Buddhism, right view is the removal, the real right view is the removal of all views. Suppose you look at this book, The Elements of Moral Philosophy. This is only a view, one of the views. This is another view of the book. This is another view of the book. This is another view of the book. And if you are attached to one view, you cannot see the book. You have to release all the views in order to have the right view. So in Buddhism, it's the same. If you entertain a view, you have not seen the truth. You have to release your view. So the definition of right view in Buddhism is the removal of all views. And then when you can remove all views, you can get in touch with an absolute reality. The non-attachment to view make it possible for you to think non-dualistically. And you are free from discrimination and fear and anger and despair. And therefore, right thinking, right speech, right action, right livelihood become possible. So there is a very important link between meta-ethics and normative ethics. And we have begun to learn this during our winter retreat. We have had 8 Dhamma talks in Vietnamese, and today I try to summarize a little bit for you in this Dhamma talk in English, which is difficult. So the title, the theme of the retreat is the path of the Buddha, Buddhist contribution toward a global ethic. We try to bring all these teachings into the 5 mindfulness trainings. And we know that it's difficult, but we have to help the Buddha. The Buddha wants us to do this. And you who are practitioners of the Dharma, you should be kind to the Buddha, you should help him to make the teaching, the practice relevant to your time. The suffering is enormous, and you have to offer the way of the Buddha to the world with your practice, with your deep reflection. And the work of Buddha continues. 45 years is not enough. So you are the continuation of the Buddha. You have to help him. You have to carry on his work. You have to make the Dharma always relevant to your time.